So we're trying this format because I'm very upset about.
Technology's stupid.
Yeah. All right. So hello, and Jay,
I'm Jay.
and this is James,
James.
and yeah, this is one of the other podcasts.
JJP or PJJ.
A cat on the keyboard. All right. So you wanted to talk about religion, and I do like my spicy topics.
So I feel it's one that like a lot of people are like one or the other on it. Like as far as like in schools,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to Christianity, they're either it's has to be in there or it doesn't belong in there regardless.
Mm-hmm.
My personal view, even though I'm an atheist, is that it should be,
Nope.
but with
Well,
a
okay.
twist.
Yeah.
All religions. A class teaching all the different think of it of all the different stories and all that from all the different religions
Mm-hmm.
and all the different impacts they've had on the world. And you
Yeah.
want to
So, like, my immediate reaction to that, all the impacts of the world. You're right. We should talk about the Crusades. We should talk about the
Yes.
Crusades and how they, killed Muslims and
yeah,
what kind of barbarian. Like, anytime I think of anything when it comes to religion, it's just it feels like antithetical to human progress. It's
but then
instead
at the
of
same time, it's the Christian church that created the modern day calendar system.
yes,
Which
and we
sucks.
can yeah, but yeah, true, but what other things can we have like so like we don't
There's
Mm.
things.
I'm trying to think because like it reminds me of like when they discovered light in prisms and they only discovered 6 colors and then they made like a seventh color that was a slight like a slight color from the other one just because he wanted the number 7 because it was his lucky number. I think that if we're looking at the world through the lens of restricted thoughts, as far as like what God is or isn't, and it's like it's just fluff. It like if you want to tell a story, that's fine. But if you're talking about like religion in and of itself, I think that saying that like
I'm not talking about it as a whole. I'm talking about it as what they all different.
like it from a historical
Yes.
perspective. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a good idea to learn like the true reality of what religion has done, sure. And it's both negative and positive. So, sure. I feel like uh, you're going to piss a lot of parents off, but that's the point. Because, at that point, you might be onto something. The reason why I'm thinking that is because you're it's like, well, I'm an atheist. I believe, and Joe Schmo is a Christian. Well, I don't believe in God, and they're like, well, I don't believe in every other God except my own, and I just believe in one less. Uh, yeah, you're just kind of introducing kids to look at how people have created religion, and yeah, that's
because
cool.
there's also a lot of
You know,
interesting as far as story wise goes. If you look at like again, let's take Christianity because it's the dominating one, especially here
Yeah.
in the US. If you look at the Bible just from a storytelling, the same way you look at Little Red Riding Hood or any of the Brother Grimm stories,
yeah.
there are lessons behind them, even if you don't take them seriously at face value.
Yes, I shall take my son and put them on the altar. And just before I go to kill him, replace him with a
Give
goat.
us
Yeah.
revelation.
You know what? That is a good lesson on don't take religion that seriously.
Yes.
Maybe don't follow the voices in your head that tell you to do bad things. Ah, a cautionary tale.
Fascinating. That was a book about schizophrenia.
You mean the Bible? I had voices talking to me in my head, and I did things. I hallucinated a burning bush telling me to do things. I prevented the hand of the Pharaoh from, I prevented I hardened the heart of the Pharaoh so that the Pharaoh wouldn't comply with Moses. Fun fact, look it up. That's in there. Why? Because God's a dick? I don't know.
But that's another thing, though. If you were like, but that's also one of the things, though, because if you look at it through the lens of all religions instead of just one,
But see,
one way or the other, every single religion has their deities as dicks.
So the problem and this is the thing, I think that it's fine to learn and understand all religions all at once. Sure. I don't think it's appropriate for kids who are under, 26, when your brain fully develops. The only reason is because people learn that stuff and then they apply it to their lives. Like, I'm somebody who would be one of those people who say you shouldn't be able to drink, get married, or drive until you're 26.
But here's my rebuttal to the brain not fully developed thing.
Mm-hmm.
Modern television, any television at all,
Oh no!
entertainment, it's going to do the same thing because there are people who believe what they see on TV is real.
Yeah, that's not a rebuttal. That's that's what you think. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, let's take all of that out. Why not?
The big example is
But even with that in taking into consideration, Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter is a fantastical world where all magic exists. Nobody thinks of that as being religious iconography, or they don't see that as I believe in the sorcery and I'm going to cast spells. Nobody thinks that way, right? They think of it as being a fantastical subject. And I want religion to be framed in that way. I want it to be a fantastical thing that some people believe in its own universe. It is a book. It is in its own fantastical universe, and we can derive lessons from it like we can with Harry Potter, like we can with Percy Jackson, stuff like that. So even in that context, let's not teach it as a literal subject, because there's no schools that are...
What I'm saying is teach it, because again, you look at Harry Potter,
Mm-hmm.
It's factitious. Going into it,
teach it as
none of this is real.
Right.
But that's the thing. Current religion is being taught of, this is what happened. This is exactly what it is.
But I feel like you get that. You provide that point with as much of efficiency as you would just teaching science, because science would say, "Hey, magic doesn't exist. I mean, we can light things on fire, but that doesn't mean we can cast spells casting fire." And I think that's sufficient enough. You just teach people that there's not a God in the sky that's dictating your life. Get to work. Try to make the world a better place. Because I feel like it just robs. I think I think that religion robs you of your life. It says these fantastical things. You can, once you die, everything will get handed to you, and it is a goal. It is a Ponzi scheme that you can never cash out because you just disappear. And I think that's really harmful for kids, because they're like, oh, well, grandma's in the sky. I'll meet her when I'm dead, instead of going through the grieving process and realize they're never going to see her again. And I feel like there's an emotional attachment that kids would have towards religion if it were introduced at a younger age. And allowing for sciences to say, hey, this isn't, real, grounds them in reality and says, this is something. and fantastical things can be said, like Harry Potter and stuff, and kids aren't going to believe that. But I don't want Harry Potter being taught in schools because that's silly. You know, I think it is something that kids definitely need to learn and understand because I think that understanding our history of our madness as human and individuals and saying religion is, the combined, well, I'm not going to ever question what this guy says. That's just what religion is. It's like, oh, that quack over there in the corner is speaking to himself, pissing on himself, like itching himself with his own foot. Like, that guy over there can speak to God. It's like, no, that guy needs mental help. You need to get him to a hospital.
True.
Like, I don't think we should entertain them as if they were true. I think we should put them in a world in its own category. And I think just teaching kids science and this isn't true. Let's churn this out. Because one time I remember I talked to my friend, and he was saying something like, I flippantly said, why is science being taught in school? You don't need that out after school. And then he correctly, I don't know what the word is offhand, but he was like, dude, like, it teaches you critical thinking skills. And I'm like, oh, you're right.
That's the entire scientific method. Yeah.
Yeah. Is
Create
understanding
a
that.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out if it's real or not. If
Right.
if it's correct, great. Move on to the next question.
Right.
If it's not, go back to that first question and say, what about this meant that it wasn't correct?
Right.
And I feel that's what a lot of people miss, is that they're not correct and they're like, well, there was nothing wrong with question, there must have been something wrong with the experiment.
Yeah. And you can rerun the experiment as much as you like and just end up going, well, I guess not. But with religion, it's like, oh, blasphemy!
So another thing I want to direct towards this, when you're saying, is because especially in history, you're told about all the different religions, you're told about what role they played, but you're never thinking about when you come out of that class, maybe they had a point and I should start worshiping the Greek gods or the Norse gods. But yet Christianity, because it is still such a powerhouse in the world at large, you talk about it and you get this divide.
Well, the reason you get that divide is because you have people who make it a point to keep it alive and keep it prominent because it's just old people that just never let go of their control over the masses. And I think that it's dangerous when and I think that just teaching and not teaching any religion, because you can find fault with a lot of different religions. You have there's a lot, and I don't really wish to just name specifics, but when it comes to Christianity, I think it's in its own category pernicious because it how often do we have laws that are implemented because people are afraid or they try to use religion as an excuse to push these big positions?
As a trans person, I can tell you, with how some states are treating it, I completely agree. I'm not saying
Well, I guess what I'm saying right now, maybe in the future where we can kind of openly discuss or have conversations about religion and just kind of that sure, have that in
but right now
just clean the slate. You have to burn the earth and just start over again because there's just way too much bigotry and control and I feel like teaching kids you're just allowing the problem to persist where it doesn't need to.
Well, I'd say a lot of the issues aren't even the material itself, though.
Yeah,
Because
no,
if you look at, I mean, we got what, 2 or 3 mega churches in this small town.
right.
And,
Like if Greek mythology were as common as Christianity is right now, then I would turn my attention to Greek mythology.
yes,
So like it's not even like
it's not the religion itself that's
right.
at fault. It's the interpretation that the modern public has of it.
I don't know if I'd say interpretation. I think I'd be more direct and say like the execution, because like you don't even need like you have people that say Jesus Christ is too woke. Like, have you read the fucking Bible?
Yeah,
Like
right.
their interpretation is really just their bigotry just being projected onto Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, the guy who fed a whole crowd with loaves and fishes. Oh, maybe he's a socialist. Like, are you kidding me?
Very true. Yeah, yeah.
uh, I just think that's so crazy. Oh yeah, and then Jesus like literally sat with people who, the priests would uh, for lack of a better term, I guess, the ill repute, like people who were just, and he healed some of them and like just met with them and said, hey, he saved a whore from being stoned to death, like, and these are the same people who want to stone the whore, like, it's like a justification under religious pretense where it's just like just remove that and then just be like, okay, well these assholes are just using your ignorance. And I think like teaching kids that um, evidence is not sufficient, faith is more sufficient than any evidence you can provide is so harmful because it like
No, I completely agree.
yeah. It's like, oh, just because I believe it's true, therefore it is. It's like, no.
So I don't know if you've seen this debate, but it was between Bill Nye and the guy who made like the replica of
Oh
the
my
Ark.
fucking god, yeah.
You've seen that one.
Yeah. The guy who looks like the missing link gets spelled out of the science guy.
I watched that and I'm like, it's literally like one of you is taking actual scientific
Yeah.
fact, the other one is just repeating lines from the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, but you're talking about the text.
Right,
The text is what's in question, and all you're using is the text.
right. But you
Which-
can interpret anything to mean whatever you want. It's like a book club, if only the people didn't read the book. Because you can make up what you want. But yeah, and it's like, in that example, it's like Bill Nye was like, yo, this shit's real. Like, we've calculated this shit. We understand carbon dating, and, and the other guy's like, I read this book. This book says that guy not right. It literally says right in here, Bill Nye the Science Guy.
So
It's like,
I watched this one thing and it was like, this guy calculated how long it would have taken to build the Ark based off how long it took to build the replica.
Mhm.
With modern tools, note that, modern tools, and about 200 people working, 200, 250 people working for an entire year.
oh my god.
You put that into this small group of people of like 4 or 5,
Mhm.
that's even just one, like, okay, let's say one person was working on it.
Mhm.
It would take them 250 years with modern equipment
Yep.
to build this thing.
Yep.
Let alone the equipment they had back then.
Right.
Even if you had a few more people, it's still not physically feasible. Let alone there was another study done where these master shipwrights built the world's largest wooden ship,
Mhm.
which is a fraction, like not even I think a tenth of the size of the actual Ark would have been. They put it in the water, and because of how long it was and how the wood was bending, it was ripping itself apart just from being in the water.
You don't understand. I can hear the comments, and I know because I was raised in this environment. It was gopher wood. That's so much more like a magical. Yeah, yeah. You know what?
Yeah, the magic wood
The
that
magic wood that never existed, that only existed for this one example that has magical properties.
I know.
Yeah.
I love this joke about it too. It's like, so flooding everyone. Yeah, everyone except for like, but just in this area. You know, not like the Native Americans or like the Chinese or any of these others
Not,
that don't have any record of this, even though they were around the same time.
not.
The only
I
place-
remember reading something where somebody compiled a lot of different. I don't know if it's not true, but I know I remember seeing something when somebody was like, a lot of different cultures had their own flood story. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I don't necessarily know if God met with all those individuals, but um, I've heard that, but I don't know. I feel like that in and of itself is just like, it's kind of like how people make their own versions of stories that, you know, like to a very drastic example, like The Lion King was, Macbeth, but it also derived it from the white tiger or the white lion from Japan. I like it's had several different origin stories,
Right.
and it all like
Right.
this is all like a pattern. Like
But-
people have a tendency of hearing a story and then copying it somewhat, and then making their own adjustments to where it sounds similar. So maybe that's what happened with the flood story.
Scientists also theorize that the flood only occurred where the ice age occurred.
Well, that would.
Because first the
I don't think
first
humans were
the-
around that time. Were
No.
they? Okay.
First the water flooded the earth and then turned into ice and then the ice receded.
Well, not as what we know as Homo sapien.
That's fair.
But then you're getting into,
Yeah, yeah,
the ancient taboo of evolution, and we're not from monkeys. It's like,
yeah. Oh my God. Joe Rogan did a stand-up with that. Did you ever
I
hear
don't
that?
think
He said, he's like, we're 97% chimpanzee. That's a lot of monkey. Is that even worth arguing? If I handed you a ham sandwich and 97% of it was shit and 3% ham, would you be willing to call that a ham sandwich? Like, back in his good days.
all DNA from all animals has some similarities.
Right, because like you all come from the same root, like that I don't know, like we all came from a big lava molten planet that came from the Big Bang. Like
But what
some
I
of
find
there are going to be similarities.
hilarious about that is that they have people who say that have such a lack of understanding. It's lack of understanding of evolution.
Yeah,
It's like, yes, we are related to them because at some point our paths split.
yeah,
I think
And then we went down 30 different paths. They went down
Darwin
30 different
explained it.
paths.
with the
We
yeah.
are similar to monkeys as when we split.
Yeah.
As soon as we split, we are no longer the same.
Yeah.
They're down their own path. They evolved the way they did. We evolved the way we did.
Yep.
Monkeys will not turn into humans.
Like Pokemon.
Yeah, I feel that's another thing. A lot of people think evolution
Actually-
is like.
So I love Pokemon.
not the way
Actually-
Darwin said it.
So, funny enough, with Pokemon, I love how they're like incorporated the idea of evolution into their things. And yes, Pikachu evolving into Raichu is the trope that a lot of people have towards evolution. But there's a different concept where it's like, let's look at competitive Pokemon.
Just
You have certain Pokemon that will appear, and they get like certain moves, and you can have bred moves. You can breed different Pokemon into having better stats and everything, and you do the same with like different horse breeds. So and certain Pokemon will be used in competitive formats, and some won't. But the only way they will is if they have certain attacks that you have to pass down through breeding and everything. And there's a lot of that. If you're not a lot of people are going to catch up on that because that's kind of really in detail.
So I feel the better example, instead of Pokemon, for those who don't know,
Yeah, that's fair.
dog and cat breeds.
Yes. I only flinch because dog breeds are an abomination. But yeah, and regardless of that, well, I mean, cat breeds are okay because like they have like the hairless cats for people who are allergic to cats. So that's you know,
I've seen the
as
hairless
far as I
dog.
know, there's no like detrimental side effects with cats as there is with dogs. But dogs are just
Or food, especially produce, was nothing what it is today. 100 years.
Oh,
even
God, no.
100 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite example is just is corn.
Those non-GMO corns.
Original corn, when humans discovered it,
Yeah.
was like yay big.
It was like the
horrible.
ones you have in the salads.
Yes.
Actually-
the genetic.
The genetic
What?
modification. Of it.
Oh, speaking of that, there's a religion thing with this too. So a lot of people will say that the banana is a great example of God giving us something that is perfectly attuned to us.
We have modified. Everyone, do you ever want to?
It looks like a really deformed,
No.
like
Do you know why artificial banana doesn't taste like banana? It's because when artificial banana, the flavor
Oh yeah.
invented,
Mhm.
it was based off of what bananas tasted like then, but they were genetically
Yes.
modified to what they taste like now, and the artificial flavoring was never changed.
Shape, size,
Which is why-
color,
Yep.
Which is why artificial banana
seeds.
does not taste like banana.
Yeah.
It's because it's a completely different flavor profile that was genetically modified.
Yeah, and then people say, "Oh, but it fits in your hand. It must be made from God." It's like, no, it's made from science. Try again.
The seed, oh my god, it took genetic modifications for the seeds are like just down the center of it.
Yeah,
They original, but like in
It was
the older
all
genetic
over
banana,
the
yeah,
place.
and they were huge.
Kind of
like,
like how
They're now like
seeded
that big. They
watermelons
used to
were.
be like,
Ooh.
yeah, pretty much like the size of a seeded watermelon.
Fat.
Seedless watermelons.
Fucking
That's
seedless.
another
That's-
genetic modification.
Yeah, you had to do genetic breeding
Yeah, 'cause
to create.
what life
seeds.
form wouldn't want seeds to reproduce?
Yes,
That's
exactly.
it's antithetical to its own
It
survival.
was genetically designed to be worse for its own expansion.
Just for our pleasure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just for the convenience of not having to spit a seed out.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
It is okay to swallow the seed.
but you'll grow a watermelon in your tummy.
I
Hey, you're ever
Only
you
if you're-
watch Idiocracy, right?
don't know. I haven't.
Watch it because it's funny. Like in the future, there's this dystopian like
You have to watch
Yeah.
it to learn about those electrolytes.
electrolytes is what plants crave. Yeah, they try to put Gatorade on the crops. Oh, not Gatorade, but it's like Brando is what it's called.
Brando, it's
And,
Gatorade.
yeah, and then they're like, why don't we put toilet water on the seeds? Well, plants don't grow out of no toilets. Well, aren't you the smartest? You should be the smartest person. in
The
the
only
world.
place that has water in it in existence
Yeah,
in that
because
movie
it's the only.
is the toilet. Because you don't drink out of the toilet.
It's perfect. Anyway,
But another big. So I just think of another big one that people are like, "Oh, evolution's not a thing. Why aren't we evolving anymore?" It's like
Digimon.
it's like we are.
Just at a
'Cause-
slow rate, like Darwin said.
Well,
that
and we've
we
also
were.
moved to a different form of
Adaptation
evolution.
and national.
I mean,
We're-
technically-
instead of. So we're still evolving slowly.
I mean, technically,
But-
our pigment is our skin is a great example of that
Yeah.
because people in higher sunlight areas created darker skin so that they would be less receptive to light, so it would be less harmful for them. But people in more colder environments didn't see the sun as much, so they needed lighter skin to
In
absorb
order
the
to
sun.
observe, yes.
Yeah.
But another
yeah.
thing is, what people also aren't understanding is, our genetic genes don't need to mutate as much, because instead of our bodies adapting to the world,
Right,
we're to
pretty
the
much
point
there,
where
yeah.
we're adjusting our world, like
To
nature,
our bodies,
to
yeah.
us. I mean, the perfect example is the
Yeah.
three of us are literally wearing something right now that does that. Glasses.
Yeah.
Good point. No, because in that video with Bill Nye the Science Guy and the other one, God made everything perfect, and he had glasses. So wouldn't that be a lie?
But
Like
glasses
just
are
by his default.
a perfect example of you go back centuries, anyone with poor eyesight, especially if they couldn't see unless they were getting help by others,
Yeah.
they were as good as dead.
I mean, have you seen Doctor Stone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they were pretty much as good as dead or not as useful to their community.
They
Again,
have blistering headaches all the time.
Dead.
Yeah.
But
They
as
seen
but when glasses
hallucinations
were
and stuff.
when glasses were invented, suddenly it didn't matter if your vision was impaired
Right.
because you had a way to correct it.
Yeah.
If you look at the scale of like how many people need glasses nowadays to even 10, 15 years ago, it's going up.
So is the rate of population too.
But that's not the only. But that's not. That's part of it. But it's exponentially compared to the growth of the population, because whether you can see or not does not affect your reproduction anymore.
Oh yeah. No, that makes sense.
So therefore, weaker eyesight genes are being passed down more and more after every generation because it's not a factor anymore.
We have the
Right,
technology.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
can supplement that.
But that's another great example of like that's evolution.
Right. That's us.
What once we used to be a hinder is now propagating through because it's not an issue.
What? You mean we don't have a mountain of dead babies in Spartan? This is Sparta.
I love. This is just a simple one, also for evolution. If you can do that or not.
So if you are a Trek nerd,
But it's a serious thing because like, in order for that to happen, your muscles and nerves need to be set up in such a way to allow for it to for you to be able to have the control to do that.
yeah,
Because in most people, these two fingers are pretty much interlocked, especially your ring finger.
right. Oh yeah, especially these two by themselves.
But if you can do this, it means you have the genetic mutation in order to allow finer hand controls, because you can willingly split.
Your fingers.
Yes. But if you ever pretty much ask anyone if they can do this, and that shows you if they have a genetic mutation or not. Funny. But there are others too. Like I think, yeah, there are some people. I think it's like there's a bone in like people's feet that's like slowly either is gone or is slowly disappearing because it's no longer necessary.
Yeah.
And if you have that bone in your foot, you have a special quirk.
You're fine.
Jesus Christ.
But we're not talking my hero. We're talking like actual. Well, that's a good example as well, because it's like
Yeah.
that's evolution. That's genetic mutation. Yes, it's fantasy, but it is an example of there are plenty of things in the human body that are not needed anymore.
Yeah.
For example, because humans have been wearing shoes so much, our feet have actually narrowed.
And become more sensitive to touch.
Yep. That's why every time you step.
On that ground out there, you're gonna hurt your feet. Whereas,
Oh no!
whereas before, your feet didn't feel that.
The Legos are winning.
Yes. Your feet have become more sensitive because of shoes. If we didn't wear shoes to this day, you wouldn't be able to feel the ground underneath your feet so much as it would just feel like you.
Yeah, it reminds me of people who wear those fucking in anime where it's like they have those little bricks of wood with the little two slits in like the sandals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that hurts my feet just looking at it.
That was very common in Edo period.
Yeah.
Only for certain people, though.
But yeah. Well, how much? What time was that? 3:30. I'll probably have to. Well, probably have to wind everything down. Yeah. So that was. I like the. I like this so far. It's good having an interview with you. Is there anything you wanted to say before?
I mean, it's been really fun being here. I would be glad to come back anytime you want.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my piece, at least for this session.
Yeah. In this regard, yeah. All right. Sounds good. And of course, James,
Yeah.
always here.
You're so good at goodbyes.
I know. I'm terrific. All right. Well, that's been our show. Like and subscribe and whatever notification thing. And yeah, have a good day.